Okay, you guys ready to get going on the next part of things here? Okay, so let's pick up from where we left off. You guys are doing a good job. We're making good progress. We're working a lot of errors and bugs and systems and everything like that. And so we one of the things to note is that this is just kind of the way that, the way that neuroscience often works is that it doesn't work. It's the brain. It's tricky. It's hard. It's difficult. It's complicated. It's locked inside a skull that we're not allowed to get inside of. And so sometimes what the most important things that I hope to teach is not just how to use things when it works, but how to troubleshoot things when they don't. Because that's oftentimes usually what happens. I had a buddy of mine who was in the 82nd Division in the Army, who, when he came back from Afghanistan, he told me that a list is just, or he said a plan is just a list of stuff that doesn't happen. And so sometimes that's the way it goes in science, and we've got to be able to think on our feet and move nimbly and quickly and adapt, and I think you guys are doing a really good job on that, so I appreciate your patience. Thank you guys for that. And so we're doing good. We're moving along, and let's pick up from where we left off. So we finished off the last little session of class talking about how we can work with the EEGLab system here. All right, so we type in EEGLab, and we loaded up an existing data set, right? So I grabbed that data set, and we edited channel locations for it, just like we're doing here. So I went to scripts, electrode locations, I used the 40 electrodes file, hit OK. Hopefully you guys all did this already. It's just a quick review. Okay. I hit OK on this one. And then from there, I actually saved the file, didn't I? Okay. So I actually saved this channel locations. Said yes. Do that. And then we did an events list next, didn't we? Yeah? Events list? Okay. So from here we clicked Advanced Events List that we created, and we loaded up a file that we now have loaded up for us conveniently. It was Advanced Events List nman-12-16-9, and we just hit Apply, and that created a list of all the different events. We selected numeric codes when it asked us, and we applied that. And then it even asked us to save it as a file, which we did. And we went and saved it, G, and I believe we saved it as that. It asked us to do it, yes. Here. Just grab something. So we saved it like that. So now I should be caught up with you guys, with exactly where you are, right? So that's kind of a lot that we worked through, right? It's a lot of moving through the GUI, right? Yeah, with a lot of mouse clicks. You guys want to see a nifty little trick? We won't get into too much of it now, but I just want to give you a little bit of a teaser now for where we'll move into in a little bit. So remember I promised at the beginning of the course that we'll accidentally learn to code a little bit? Yeah? So in case you got tired of clicking around and knowing all that stuff, once you set up what you want to do, what you can do is, now that I've done that, that's remembered in our workspace here and in the history of MATLAB's commands, because I have not yet cleared it out. So what you can do is when I come into my command window, and let's say I type in EEG with the letter H for history, it brings up all this gobbledygook. Okay? Now I'm gonna decode this for you. I'm gonna tell you what it means. Okay? And the way I'm gonna do that is, in order to show you what it is, I'm going to highlight it, I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to open up a new script here on the top left. It's basically an open little editor thing.
You want us to do it with you? Or
No, you don't have to do it. Okay, so within here, what it does is and I'm going to create some spacing here so we can begin to read it. Okay? Okay, let's walk through a little bit what we have. Okay? So, this is the history of what we just did by hand, by manual process. Okay? The first thing we did is we typed in EEGLab, and then we loaded our data set. You remember that? It says load set here. Okay? When we loaded the data set, it asked us what file name do we want to take, and we grabbed subject 32 that was re-referenced to the mass fluid with 1.1 Hertz high-pass filter and 256 Hertz downsample. It asks us what path was that from? What directory did you take it from? What folder did it live in? And this is just that folder. C drive, users, yours truly, the desktop, Psych 433X, data, and EEG. This is just our folder. So it's a big, long line of gobbledygook, right? But it's really easy once you kind of understand what it is. All it is say, load that file from that place. Okay, then what did we do next? Well, we edited the channels. So channel, edit, and we looked up this directory of electrode locations with this 40 electrodes file. Pretty easy, right? Okay, so we loaded the set, loaded the data set, then we edited the channels, okay? Then we basically saved it, okay? So save, set. Well, it asks us what was the name you want to give it. So we added this name, and then it asks us what path do you want to put the file in, what folder do you want to save it in. And there's our folder we saved it in. And then we edited our event list, right? So from there, all it was is we loaded this directory, users, me, desktop, the folder. In the scripts was our file for event list called advanced event list 12.1609.txt. You don't have to worry about any of this other crap. And then all we did was we saved the new data set with the name that we had here, channel locations with eList, and that's the directory that we saved it in. So, if you ever need to know what we did, you can type in EEGH. It'll tell you the history of exactly the steps you took. Now, you guys want to see something really cool? Okay. Check this out. So let's say we just did that for subject 32 here, didn't we? Yeah? What if I want to do that for subject 37? You got to do all that by hand, right? No. There's a way to just zip it through with the press of a few buttons. Okay? So all you would do for that is come in here, change the subject number 32 to 37. Okay? 32, 37, and 32, 37. 32, 37. Now let's see how that works. Highlight all this. You hit run. So I ran the section. Now it's opening up a new round of EEG. And all I did was type in those two different numbers. I just hit run, right? And I already got to the point of saying code, so I got to come in here and just select that real quick. Saving it down here, creating a new set. And it should be done in a second. Pretty cool, huh? So, we're not going to get into the programming like that, in the coding just yet, because we kind of have our hands full. But I wanted to foreshadow a little bit for you guys, to let you know that there's really simple ways that we can zip this through, but in order for that to work, we need to know in our minds what the steps are that we have to do and why we're doing them. You know what I'm saying? So that's why we're going to go through it by hand so that we understand what we have to do. And that's how we get what we do. We'll do it for one or two subjects, and then you can zip them through. It's called batch scripting for all the rest of the subjects. Sound pretty cool? Okay, cool. So, anyways, let's see here. Okay, so does everybody have that events list file loaded, right? You should, because nothing should have changed from our break. So you have our events list. The thing we're going to do next is now we're going to go to what we tried to do earlier. We're going to extract our bin-based epics. Yes?
Does it matter if ours is number 2?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't, no. So, extract bin-based epics. Now what we're going to do is, let's say we want to extract our bin-based epics. It asks us to set the window. How much of the time frame do you want to slice into those little things, little events? Now we have a stimulus that comes on the screen. Okay, let's set our pre-stimulus, basically our baseline period, to the activity that was happening about -200 milliseconds beforehand. So that's what that is there, -200. Now we don't want it to go to 800 milliseconds. We want it to go to 1500. So let's fix that. Let's fix that 800 and let's make it 1500. Make sure there's a space that's still there between 200 and 15.
I have a question. What's the life buoy button? What is that supposed to be?
That's for settings, I think, or help, maybe. But you don't have to worry about that right now.
I'm curious.
Okay, so did everybody switch that to from 800 to 1500? Okay, so the other thing that's important to note that we'll do here, okay, is it asks us, what do you want to baseline correct to? Okay, so what that is we need to basically set, it's asking us what period of time do you want to correct our post-stimulus time to. So you need some sort of a comparison, okay? And so we just always compare it to the baseline. So the baseline is going to be that -200 period, -200 milliseconds, and we're just going to keep it on the pre-stimulus baseline of about -200 to 0, okay? And so you really don't have to do anything else here. Once you change it from 800 to 15, you hit run. Now it'll ask us again to save it. So what you can do is go to the very end of that and notice that it started with our file name, right? We had our high-pass filter, our downsample to 256 Hertz. We applied the channel locations. We added an events list. Now it added these little things. It added a B and an E for bin epic. So I think B and E is a little confusing. I don't think it tells us really what happened. Why don't we change and delete the E and the B and just say epic? Would that help you guys to know?
You said epic.
Epic with an ED. E-P-O-C-H-E-D. That way, that way, when you have to come back and look at that file next time, you'll have a better idea of what you did. Does that make sense? Pretty easy? So just do that, and we want to highlight that again, and you want to save, check this box, to save it as a file with the same name. So I'm going to highlight, for me, you can hit Control A, or if you have a Mac, it's Open Apple A. This is your shortcut for selecting all. Then Control C, or Open Apple C. Check the box, and you want to click your cursor in the white area here, and do Control V, or Open Apple V. That's your shortcut for paste. Now, you might want to make sure that you're in the right folder to browse. Make sure you put it in your data folder for EEG. And you can even paste that in there like that. Yeah. And then just hit OK. Okay, so now that we did that, we just epoching the data. Does everybody have a GUI that looks like this that says epochs of 300? Let me ask that the other way. Does anybody not have a GUI that has 300 epochs? You don't.
Sorry, no, just to clarify, from the name it one, copy and paste it to the save it as file.
Sure. But you want to make sure that you browse as well and put it in the right folder too. Just the data with EEG. Okay. So does anybody not have a GUI that looks like this? Seriously, everybody this worked for? We might have just made history in this class. That's awesome. Oh, except the hand, which is okay. But
Mine just doesn't want to save it to the EEG list.
let me take a quick look. It did work. Good news, it still worked. It still worked for everybody. That's still history for us. So great job. Huh? Didn't that work?
I'm the black sheep parrot. Well, not that it doesn't work, but
Okay, we'll sort it out.
is it supposed to say epic?
At the end of it, yeah, you need to add epic at the end of it. There you go, just like that.
Financial-ish upland areas from here. If you go down to 210, or 215,000 and turn on to 210, down to 210, go west. Go until to this little hill. It's either
There you go. Worked good for you too. Still batting 1,000. 100% success rate. Okay. So this is really good. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean now that we went from 1 epoch to 300?
Oh no, we have more bits and pieces of it?
Yeah, we didn't shrink it. We sliced our one long period of EEG into 300 discrete little windows, basically of when stuff happened. Right? Because that's what we're trying to figure out. What's happening in the brain when stuff happens on the computer screen. Everybody on board with the idea and the concept? Okay, so now that we have our windows, what can we do now? Excuse me, I'm just stumbling here. What did we start this class today talking about doing?
Looking at
Indeed, looking at EEG and interviews, yes? What else? Yes?
maybe the subtraction or something.
We want to talk about artifacts, right? And we want to know, so a lot of times, we said one way that you can get around when people blink is to tell them, don't blink during this period of time, but it's okay to blink in this other time, right? Well, that other time when it's okay to blink, for example, we just chopped all that out, because that's not in our window. So now, we're going to look to see what artifacts are left in the windows that we do need. Okay? So, let me just add our next step that we wrote on here. Number 6 was events list. 7, we epoch the data, right? Now, just for fun, I'll show you again. If we do EEG H in our command line, see how it shows us epoch or into bins. There's our parameters, -200 to 15 to the pre-stimulus period, and then we just saved it as a new data set with our data set name. Going all the way out here, and if you scroll it out, you'll see our pathway too. So it does remember what we did, and we'll come back to that maybe in a couple of weeks, and we'll learn how to program in that scripting language, which is, once you get used to doing this by hand and working through it, which is a really easy and good way to learn, once you do that for a bunch of subjects, you're going to get really spoiled and be like, oh my god, this takes so long to click through, and we're going to be able to write it up in a script and just zip them all through. It's going to be awesome. Okay? So, let's come back to what we had here. Now we want to look at those artifacts. Okay, so now we want to do step 8, which was artifact rejection. Okay? So, now you're going to be like the cool kid in school and reject all the rejects. Okay? You're going to go to plot, channel data, and scroll. That'll bring up our EEG again. Okay, so what are we looking at here? Let's maximize this so we can use our whole computer screen. Okay? Now notice things look a little bit different than they did when we first looked at EEG, doesn't it? Okay? One thing that might jump out to you is it looks like we actually got a little bit closer zoomed in on the data. The other thing that we have these vertical lines. Okay? Now we did have the vertical lines in the EEG before when we had one big long epoch, didn't we? But they're a little bit different now. Now they denote, well, the same information of when the event happened, but there's this blue vertical line a little bit beforehand, right? So this is our stimulus onset. This is our 200 milliseconds beforehand. Remember when we epoch the data, we created those windows? This is our -200 millisecond pre-stimulus baseline. It goes 200 milliseconds here, and then it goes 1500 milliseconds here. And then we start the next 200 milliseconds for the next trial. Now we cut out all that extra stuff in your experiment when they're saying source memory and stuff like that, because what we care about is what's on the screen when they first see the work. Now we know still what they did say for the source memory because we have that in our 4-digit code. Does that all make sense? Yeah? Okay, so check this out. What we're going to do is we're going to zoom out a little bit. Because 46 microvolts here on the bottom of this little window, that's a little bit closer than we need. Let's make our standard number 75. See how that kind of cleaned up the data a little bit? So we zoomed out, and now it doesn't look as noisy, does it? Did you guys see that on your own screen? Right? So, we talked about EMG noise before, right? When we zoomed in at 46, it looked like it was much noisier, right? We zoom out, it doesn't look as noisy. That doesn't change the noise, it just changes our look. And just like most things in life, things can turn out to be, things can look a little bit differently depending on your point of view. So we just changed our point of view. And so, we're going to have our 300 trials, and let's navigate around here. So when you go through and you do your artifact inspection, when you're inspecting the data, make sure you set it to 75. Because that's going to be a standard level that we can look at all the subjects with, and we'll be able to get a closer view. Because let's say that we zoom in, I'm going to get crazy here. I'm going to put 20 in just to show you guys. Wow, that looks really messy, right? Person's crazy, we gotta reject all of this, right? Oh, throw everything out, right? No, 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 they don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's just because we zoomed in all the way. You know? If somebody took their, some photographer took their camera and they came up to you and like took a really, really, really close up, like right up on your face, like your face might, I mean, maybe your face might not look as pretty as it usually does, right? Like you'd be like, no, 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 get a little bit away, you know, like so it looks a little bit normal. We're zoomed in really, really close. This is a super, super close in. So we want a normal looking picture. Let's keep it at 75.
I was going to say, and also I just kind of toying with it, I went to 100 and it just looks a little too clean.
Yeah, so if you go to 100, it just looks like, or let's say make it to 1,000. It's just a bunch of straight lines. Right? Yeah. Yeah, they just flat out that. Okay. So, when you do this, let's look at what you can do. Because we epic the data, let's stick with our one in the middle here. So first of all, let's orient. We have trial 1, trial 2, trial 3, trial 4, trial 5. This tells you what it was. Okay, it was bin 23, bin 53, bin 48, bin 21, and bin 3. Now remember we added those numbers to our bins when we did events list, remember? And if you want to know what they actually thought on that trial, we have animacy, AN, item judgment was a 5, and their source judgment said SC. That meant it was source correct. Here it was a man-made condition. They said 5, and well, you can't see the rest of it, but it'll tell you what their source is. But the point is that you can it maintains the information for you. Okay, so we have our 5 trials. Okay, and they're numbered. They're also coded for what they are. And what we can do is we're going to find out which ones do we keep and which ones do we throw out. Okay, so let's say if I grab number 3 here, all I did was hit it once, just one click of the mouse. One click of the mouse over trial 3 and it turns yellow. So now it's highlighted. Notice it highlights the stimulus onset to -200 all the way out to 1500. But it stops before and after. So this again lets us know that it's epic. We couldn't have done this when it was one long epic. Okay? And so there's not really an artifact in here, but this is kind of a big bump there. See that bump in P8? That looks kind of like an artifact. Maybe we want to reject this from the data. Okay? So our job now, and by our, I mean yours, is to clean the data. You want to decide what is real brain activity that I want to include in my thesis, and what is crap that I need to reject to make sure that I don't get my thesis wrong with bad data results. Make sense? And so what you do is you go through our 300 trials, and you can click the little double arrow, and we can find the trials. Oh, there's a blink. Look at that sucker. Trial 9. See that blink right there? Pre-stimulus? Can't have that sucker in there. See? Oh. See how it affected these frontal sites? So we want to highlight this for... So I should say this too. Anything you highlight in yellow is going to be rejected. Of course, you're going to have to... It'll ask you, are you sure you really wanted to reject it? You're going to say yes. But right now, we're going to set up the list of all the stuff we want to reject. Now, just for fun, hit this one again. And it should turn white. It should unselect. So, this is not permanent yet. It will be later. But you can, play around with this. Yes, Kelsey?
For number 6, are those the examples of like when your eyes are moving horizontally? I keep forgetting the term for it.
Yeah, the saccade?
Saccades,
Yeah. Yeah. So, what you can do is now hit this bottom double arrow, and we move along. So my eyes are really quick at this, because I've been doing this for 15 years. So when I go through it, I just kind of go through like this, and I can just snag them and move. But we're not here for me to do that. We're here for you to do that. We're here to learn. We go slow. Okay? So I'll come back to where we were. Okay? And what I'll say is, we'll take this time. So remember we talked about alpha earlier today? And alpha maybe being an artifact? Or maybe not? Okay, we're looking at here. This is alpha. See, it has all this waviness here? It almost looks like crap, right? Who remembers what crap is?
Commonly recorded artifacts. Potential?
Potentials, exactly. It's an industry term. Crap. This kind of looks like crap, right? Because you want this to be kind of like level and stable pre-stimulus. But this is all wavy, right? Sometimes some people might want to reject that. For us, we're not going to. But that's one example of what alpha would look like. I think you asked about alpha earlier this morning, right? Okay. So anyways, as an example, let's say that I just completed this whole file. And I said, okay, I want to reject everything I just did. I hit that button, and it'll ask me, do you want to reject it? And let's